Welcome to Honest Convos with Karen.
And Marcia. We're longtime biz besties bringing you along for the journey of building a business and life you actually want.
No fluff, no filters, just honest conversations about the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get into it.
Welcome back to Honest Convos. This convo is going to get super honest. So just a fair warning. This is not a personal attack. This is but you might feel called out. I'm just going to say it up front cuz we are talking about treating your business like a business. As a solopreneur, you are the business, right? We talk about that. Like you really are the business. You wear all the hats. That's just the nature of being a solo operator. But what we are going to talk about today is really trading in that kind of operator persona for the CEO persona. And that's why we're talking about treating your business like a business, because that really is the difference between treating it like a hobby, being like an operator mindset, an employee mindset, versus this is a business. And a business doesn't exist, by the way, unless it has revenue. So I'll just put that out there. So you got to do the things that bring in revenue consistently, and how that CEO identity shapes the way you will approach operating the business, the structure you'll bring to it, the clarity that you will make sure that you get as a CEO, the way that you will even show up. We talked in our last episode about how you show up for the community that you're leading. Here, we're talking about how are you showing up for yourself and by extension, your business by treating it like a business. So I think I gave fair warning, right? If you feel called out, that is part of the intention, but it's because we want to bring awareness. Knowing is half the battle. And so we'll also talk in future episodes, more about how we are, approaching our business, particularly our partnership. As Marcia mentioned, we are a fish. So we are Clark Sheehan LLC. We have our own business bank account. Why was that like the most exciting part? So, and like it is so fun to see like the money come in from the Stripe processes. Like, because again, that's what makes a business, guys. Like it's actual money. But like the way we have approached the podcast this round, which was our first kind of product, right? I'm putting up my air quotes. I love how I'm always like so animated and only Marsha can see it. The way we approached the podcast, which was like our first product, really, right? That's our eventually we plan to monetize the podcast. Right now, we're just kind of getting it going. But like we immediately were like, no, it's not just the podcast. Like we are going to actually create a something, which ended up being the Success Secret Society. So part of that journey for us was even like approaching this partnership as an actual business. How are we going to earn revenue? Because that's what makes it a business. So yeah, a lot of rambles to get us started, but I'll kick it over to Marcia and just really excited to dive into this topic.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because we've been there, done that. Like we had the first podcast, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, the first season. And we were thinking, okay, we know a lot of brilliant women. We knew so many people, and podcasting back then was kind of a hot topic. And I don't know, we just were like, let's do it. Let's see if we can do it. The quality probably wasn't as good as it is now. We didn't have the equipment, but we were like, we're not going to put a bunch of money into something that isn't a money generator. And so we were just having conversations back then. And then we took a break, we sunset it, and then we started back in 2020 because we had stuff to say again. And then we were like, we should figure out a way to monetize this because it is very time consuming, And I recently had a client consult, and she was like, what is your podcast? What's the purpose of it? What is it doing? And I said, honestly, at this point, I think it's just reconnecting people who were in our community many years ago. I think it's reconnecting them to where we're at right now. And it's a way for us to kind of talk out, like we're strategizing here, before we launched this season, I was like, if we're going to be putting time and energy into this, it does need to make money. Going into this, we had a bunch of different ideas of where we were going to go, and the membership kind of came up and it landed, and we have ideas for other things that we're going to offer, but I will say with the way that I've treated businesses in the past, they've definitely been hobby businesses, The IRS sees it as that. My mother-in-law, who's the CPA, sees it as that. And that has changed though, because I'm like, we have the clarity. We know where we want to go with Clark Sheehan. And, we're just done fucking around, I guess. And so I'm not a hobbyist anymore, but my identity needs to match up with the mindset that like it's go time. So I need to have the structure, and I have been like, putting together like my home office, that kind of thing, where I have a dedicated space where I can work. I do need to work on like the actual hours and everything. I've been lunching way too much. I've been going to lunches with people, and it's always, it's good, but then with that, I feel like it's kind of like a slippery slope for me because I'm connecting with a lot of people and having like one-on-one conversations, which I love because that's how I feel like I get a lot of inspiration and creativity. But I need to roll it back, like how much time I'm spending doing that, because it takes a few hours out of the day, and then it's like leading up to it. I'm like, oh, I can have a call at this time, but like it needs to be over by this time anyway. So the business is really going to start to thrive for us when we do have those structures in place and that consistency, and like, yeah, everything with the society, like we kind of have that mapped out, but now it's like we need to have that dedicated time and focus and be like, okay, what is it I'm going to do? What is it we're going to hire out, like get some contractors to help with, and be the boss instead of just being the, as you said, the operator. And if you're looking for a resource that's really good, the E-Myth, that book is so good. It's basically about a specialist or whatever, like I think he was like HVAC or electrician or something. And so he's like, oh, I should just start my own business. But then, so the entrepreneurial myth is that you can run a business because you're good at something, because you have to do everything. You have to have all the hats. And so I think Karen and I are trying to help you realize that even if your business, like it might have started out as a side hustle or like a part-time thing or a passion project or whatever, you need to evolve your vision of yourself into, no, I am the CEO of this company. And so I'm going to treat myself like it. I'm going to treat my work like it. I'm going to treat my clients like it. And yeah, and we're going to do it. A lot of F words, but I mean, I'm feeling this topic.
Hey, I love it. I love me some F words. But no, you're making a really good point because, and you might be like, okay, what does this really mean? It's like your identity drives your behavior. Like if I don't identify as a runner, then I'm not going to run. Right? So, like what I do is going to be driven by how I see myself and who I think I am. So, when you identify, when you are like, I am a CEO, this is a business that is meant to generate revenue, the things you do, the way you do them are going to be different than if you're like, oh, this is a fun thing to do. Yeah, it brings in a couple of dollars here and there, and people, I have fun with it. Like that's a whole different mindset. The actions you take, the way you take them is not going to be the same. So it's really important that you start to see yourself as a CEO. It can feel weird. It can feel very strange, like chief executive officer of my one person business. It's just me. Like it can feel a little clunky, but you have to just be okay. Like sit in that discomfort. It usually is like, imposter syndrome or Am I really qualified to call myself a CEO? Do I need to make a certain amount of money to be a CEO? Like, there could be a lot that comes up with that. So, pull out your journal, write it all down, get it out of your head and out of your heart. But at the end of the day, you are a CEO. You're a solo CEO is like how I will frame it when I'm talking to my clients. Because yeah, you're solo, but you are the one. You are owning, you are guiding, leading, shaping, creating. It's your thing. So you have to really think about that and tie that back to, your identity. This is your business. The way you do stuff has to align with the way a CEO would do it, not an operator who's overwhelmed, overworked, waiting on a paycheck every 2 weeks. Like, you are the owner. And how are you going to actually lead this business, generate revenue, serve your community, your clients, your customers, and actually create what you want to create, whatever that looks like, your lifestyle business, a business that actually works for your life. All of that is going to be driven by the identity that you are taking on. So that's why this is such an important topic. And like Marcia said, like with us, I mean, we are thinking very differently than we had in the past. And it's kind of interesting to even like step back and notice that. Like, oh yeah, this is what we did before. And even in 2020, the second iteration of the podcast, we did approach it with some monetizing and but the tools, I think we talked about this before too. We talk about a lot. It's so fun to just keep conversating because like so many things come up and you'll notice those like repeated themes. The tools weren't really there to support the type of pace we were trying to grow at. So it got overwhelming, and we were like, "Ugh, okay, let's just take a break." And then that turned into a 4 year break. And so now that we're back and the tools are matching, because we use AI in a lot of our workflows, and maybe we could talk about that in a future one because AI is 100,000% here to stay, and it's actually great. I love it, but I think I said before that you have to work with AI and you have to still be the leader and the driver when you're using AI. Like, I am 100% in opposition of anyone who is just like copy paste, throwing AI around and it's all AI written, AI. I'm not, no, like you still need to be the brain and AI is just helping you execute. So, anyways, we'll talk about that in another episode. You have to use your tools. That's another CEO move, right? Like, I don't have to personally touch every single task, every single thing. I just really want you to think about, like, how am I showing up in my business? Am I really thinking like a CEO would, or am I thinking like, someone who is waiting on that paycheck to hit every other Friday?
This conversation's making me think about my baby sister who, oh my God, there's a guy on a motorcycle without a helmet on. Like, we're in a residential area, but like, dude, sorry, triggered my e-bike situation. Anyway, so this conversation's making me think about my baby sister who got her PhD. And so you go from being a student and becoming an expert in a certain field, and then you have to write your dissertation paper, and it has to be like brand new thought work, which God bless the future PhD people, like how are they going to do that? I don't know if there's any original. But anyway, she's an economist, and so she did her dissertation paper, and I remember going to her graduation. She had already had degrees from a couple other colleges. She got her master's, and like she was basically a professional student while also working for the federal government. But she got her PhD and then she became Dr. Tina. I call her Dr. T. It's like Mr. T, but Dr. T because it's cool. Shout out to like my 80s friends. I feel like that has to be like a similar thing for like being a business owner where you kind of fall into being a business owner where it's like you feel like a student. Like all you're doing is learning. You're learning year after year after year. And then but for her like she got a diploma. She had her cap and gown. We had a big party. She gave everybody nice satin robes. It was beautiful. Then she became Dr. T. For us, Like, there's no graduation ceremony, there's no, like, "Oh, now you get to add these initials." You kinda have to put that out there that, like, "No, I am the CEO. I am the owner. I am the president, like, of my company of one." You've been studying, you've been working, you've been implementing, you've been doing all of that, but it's like, with my little sister, I know she feels a sense of pride every time we call her that, or whenever she gets to do her white papers or like citations and that kind of thing. It's like, God, I put so much into this and now I get to reap the rewards. And it's like, you do too. So, yeah, that's just what all that was bringing up for me, that we are all just students, and you have now received your diploma. Maybe we could do that, like create a Canva, like if you want to go and get your CEO diploma, we'll give you one.
Oh my god, I love that. No, that's a perfect analogy. I mean, that really does, because 'cause you're right, there is no magical time where you're gonna have, I've arrived. I have become CEO, guys. Here I am. Now address me as, owner Karen. Like, there is no moment like that. So it can feel, again, kind of strange. And even when you chuckled, I was chuckling too. Like, I'm the, president of my company of one. But that really is, even if it feels clunky, silly, or like, why am I doing this? You really have to think about it that way if you want to transition into treating your business like a real business. And we're not saying that you have to be building a huge corporation or you have to be trying to scale your business to the heavens so that you can sell it one day and have an exit. Those are all fine goals. I mean, if that's your goal, that's great. But I think most of the folks that we find in our community are just trying to build something that will fuel their life, something that will give them the financial stability that they want, the time freedom that they want. So you can do that and still be the CEO though. Like you can do that. It doesn't have to be something huge. There is no magical milestone that means now you're the CEO. You weren't the CEO yesterday, but now you are. It just really is you deciding that you are and showing up and treating your business like you are, having, regular CEO time for planning and review, which, Marcia and I talked about in the last episode. Something we're working on putting together for folks is like a kind of implementation kit. So you don't have to think about it. You can just like plug and play and do your own CEO self retreat, because those type of planning blocks are critical, because you're never going to feel like you are in control and CEO like if you don't have the structure, the strategy, the clarity. If you don't have a plan, it doesn't mean that everything will go exactly the way you planned it, but you had a plan, that you know your numbers. You know how many people are coming into your business. You know how much it costs you to get a customer. You'll see those. One of the shows I love watching is Shark Tank. Because like the questions they will ask, I'm like, ooh, do I know this? Do I know this for my stuff? Like, and like they'll always ask, like, how much does it cost you to acquire a customer? And people are like, like, and so like you have to know your numbers. Because then that helps you with pricing. We talked about that in a pricing episode of like, pricing accordingly. And like, how do you even know where to price? That can help you when if it costs me, $20 to get someone to be a customer, then my thing needs to cost more than $20, right? So, you just have to know your numbers. That's really important. And having goals. This is what it means to be a CEO. These are the things you have to be thinking about. These are the things you have to be looking at regularly. Like you can't put your head in the sand and just pretend like they don't exist. Again, a business has to be making revenue. And when you have money coming in and you have people who have signed up or bought or whatever, like they are your client, your customer, you have to be showing up for them. You have to be showing up professionally. You have to be serving them, delivering on what you promised, all that stuff. So, how do you do that in a way that's not overwhelming, that you don't feel resentful, because you're pricing accordingly because you know your numbers? Like all of that really comes from adopting that CEO identity and treating your business like a business.
I think the only thing you didn't mention was like having like an SOP for everything. So like standard operating procedure. So like having a checklist where like you're not recreating it every time. One of those lunches that I had this week was with a project manager from the old builder that I worked at, and he's moved on to a different builder. And this is like a much larger company. And there's so many different departments and everything, but they have their processes down. So they have many more projects that they're working on in different phases. That was one of the things that I was working on when I was at the builder. I was trying to create processes for them because each project, each home that was being built, like they kind of had like an idea, but then once the keys exchanged hands, it was there just weren't SOPs in place that could make each experience easier. And so, yeah, like you are just one person. Whoever's listening to this, you might just be one person, but just having, and I do this actually for the chamber, the foundation that I'm the chairman of. I have in each calendar for our board of director meetings, like I have like a list of things that I do. It's not necessarily the agenda for the meeting, but like I have like little reminders because my brain will, we're not meeting all the time. So there's a lot of things happening between those meetings where I might forget formats. And so having a process for myself to lead those meetings is it's just a way to prevent your brain from holding on to too much information. You're just like, "Oh, past Marcia put this in her calendar event for present me, and it's going to be easier because I'm just going to go through this." So, creating those processes for yourself just to not have to depend on your brain to come up with it each time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that you brought that in because, yeah, systematizing is key and using like automations and tools and things that make you let you work faster and easier and not have to overthink, not have to make too many decisions. Decision fatigue is a real thing. Systematizing your life. I mean, there's really nothing that can't be systematized. You see people with the meal planning, with the cleaning, like those clean talk videos. I don't know if you guys have ever been down that, that whole rabbit hole in TikTok, but there's like a whole clean talk situation. And I was like, I don't know how to clean apparently. Like I've figured out that I like my stuff was not this systematized. Like I was very haphazard. I didn't have no checklist. I wasn't doing all the steps. I'm like, wow, like I can actually become way more efficient at my cleaning blocks or organizing or meal planning. Like, that's just life stuff. So then imagine with your business, like every time you're going to email a client about XYZ, you have that, that kind of template to pull from. And maybe you just have to customize a couple of sentences. Every time, you're going to do this certain task or set up this type of thing, or you're about to launch this thing again, like you have those plug and play systems that you don't have to overthink. You don't have to wonder, did I miss a step? Because you always have like your checklist. And that can be for every part of your business, whether it's getting leads, nurturing the leads, getting clients, sales, marketing tasks. I mean, social media, that's probably the easiest one that people systematize and schedule out. But yeah, definitely systems. That's a CEO move because employees don't use systems as much as they just get told what to do, right? Like we get told what to do. We look to other people to tell us what to do. And so if you have an employee mindset with your business, you may fall into a trap where you're kind of just using someone else's tactics, using what works for other people and hoping it'll work for you. And if it doesn't, thinking something's wrong with you, right? And it's just the strategy wasn't in alignment. There goes our word. So it's really important. And that's another boss CEO move. Like building your business in alignment with your vision. Like it doesn't even get more CEO than that. So, you definitely want to start with having that vision in the first place. So, yeah, no, it's just you really have to think about this though. This one you might have to chew on if you feel called out. I warned you in the beginning, but just really sit with it and think about like how am I treating my business? Am I treating my business like a business? Am I treating myself like a CEO? If not, why not? And just really process through that so that you can figure out how to show up like the CEO that you already are. And you just have to give yourself permission to be.
And if you would like to be in a community with other CEOs and see, because everybody does it kind of differently, like we're giving you some actionable things that you can implement in your business, but every business is going to have different things, but it's just having that image of yourself and that identity of being the business owner and being in community with other business owners. So that's to say that the open enrollment for quarter 4 of the Success Secrets Society is opening on Monday, September 15th. We are on day 2 of the Reset and Rise Challenge. So if you wanted to join that, you can actually still get involved in that. And then, so I don't want to overload you too much, but I think if you are interested in going further with us and having personalized attention on your company with both Karen and I during our monthly calls, then take a look at the society. We would love to have you.